Morning, everyone. How's everyone this morning? So I want to start something off this morning. This is an open Q&A. All right, we're going to answer all the questions, no matter how long it takes today. But I want to start something off from David Burns, 10 Days to Self-Esteem. Now the cover picture has changed, obviously, because this was David Burns a long time ago, but the information is still sound. And Pat, this is for you too, okay? And so David Burns asks a really important question as he starts you working with him in this workbook. And that is, are you prepared to pay the price for happiness? Everybody thinks of happiness as a place you arrive that's got no responsibilities, no cost to it. It does have a cost to it. The cost is you need to invest in yourself. You need to pull some of your energy and your focus back from whatever is sucking you dry so that you can't stay ahead of the clutter, all right? And you need to invest it in yourself in ways that sustain you. If you want to have a system for doing that, because you don't really even know what I'm talking about there or what that would be, all right, that's too gray for you. I want you to go to, if you have it, Conquer the Clutter, Conquer the Clutter, either the audiobook, if you find it easier to absorb information by listening, or the hard copy book, print version book, and go to the goals section. That's why I ask you, when you're setting goals, all right, and the likelihood of hitting a target if you don't have goals goes way down, all right, but they have to be your goals, not the right goals. They have to be your goals. They have to meet your needs. I ask you to do three things, three types of goals. And the first one is invest in yourself. But there are three parts to that. Every single day, I want you to make a deliberate effort to find the joy that is there that you're not noticing while you beat yourself up, all right? Or you exhaust yourself, or you discourage yourself. You're in a funk, right? The fun, the joy is what fills you. What makes life feel like those little things, you know, that makes like, oh, wow, what a gift. Fun is that part of yourself that creates energy, that little mischief part of yourself that, you know, and it's very unique to you. What is fun? And play is the child in you. For heaven's sakes, don't let go of that child in you, okay? Because the child is infinitely forgiving and infinitely optimistic, always looking for the next thing, the next possible thing. The second goal, and that's just investing in yourself, those three parts, every single day. It doesn't require any money. It doesn't require any time. The joy, fun, and play is around you already. You're just not making a point of noticing it. So you deprive yourself of the very things that are going to give you that energy, that meaning, that why would I get up when I'm exhausted and discouraged? Why would I? Joy, fun, and play, folks. That'll do it in small doses every day. All right. The second goal is remind yourself, even though you feel stuck, you are not stuck. You are not stuck. You are a learning, growing, developing human being. What do you want to know a little more about? What do you want to do even a tiny bit better? Find it. Start small. Some people write me and say, I learn a new word and I use it every day. All right? Start where you can start. Because what that does is that reminds you that you are an evolving person and you're capable of change. Those two things go hand in glove. You can't be a learning, growing, developing human being up here and be saying to yourself, oh, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I'm too whatever. You can't do those. Those two things are contradictory. Okay? So give yourself a break. And the third goal is, boring old work. It's those things that if you draw breath, we all have to do. All right? We have to pick up after ourselves a little bit. So before you decide on the big project, you sit down and take a deep breath before you decide to bring that product in, because, whoa, the things I could do with that. The first thing you're going to have to do is find a place to put it. And that's not by the front door. All right, sit down and rethink that plan, because that has a huge obligation. Before you tell yourself, I can conquer that room that I have been using as a storage room, I can do that in a week. Maybe not. How long did it take to create? All right. And that may be somewhere in the ballpark of the energy it's going to take. Are you plumbing your depths right now? Do you know how much energy you have in the day? Don't exhaust yourself. Don't exhaust yourself, because if you exhaust yourself doing it like a marathon, you're not coming back to it tomorrow. And whatever builds up today is going to be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day as you dig yourself out of a hole. So I want everyone to make a commitment to themselves starting right now. No more holes. Put the shovels away. Stop digging yourself into and out of holes. No more holes. You handle whatever you did today, you built up today, so think long and hard about it so that you don't promise tomorrow away. All right, and the next day, and part of the next day, and part of the next day, till you're really fed up. Okay, so let me read you what David Burns says, because no matter what the comorbid factors are, those other, we were talking about them last week. Let me just give you kind of a replay on it. We've got anxiety, eating disorders, addiction, drug, alcohol, gambling, adrenaline, tics, Tourette's, autism, schizophrenia in the more serious cases, sometimes early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. Somebody's got a new puppy. Oh, lovely, lovely. Good for you, Nora. Oh, darling. Attention deficit, ADD, ADHD, social isolation, social phobia in a more serious case, depression. Half the Western world is living with some level of depression. Personality disorders, aging with mobility issues, just part of life. It's a stage in life. All right, so this is what David Burns says, and I found it really, really encouraging and truthful. All right. So the loss of self-esteem and feelings of hopelessness are the worst aspects of depression. You may tell yourself that you're no good and feel absolutely convinced that there's no solution for your problems. It's not like having a cold, which is an illness that you know will go away after a period of time. In one sense, depression can feel worse than cancer, because most cancer patients feel hope as well as self-esteem. I want you to know that even though depression can be extraordinarily painful and demoralizing, there's the energy, there's the hole, okay? The prognosis for a full recovery is nearly always quite positive. No matter how bad you feel, no matter how long you felt that way, David Burns says, my clinical experience and numerous research studies, and he's done more than a few folks, have documented that people who try persistently can experience joy and self-esteem again. What are the operative words there? Try persistently. Perseverance makes a difference. Today is not a good day. Make tomorrow a slightly better day. Okay, so I wanted to start us off with that message. And then we have 2 questions in the chat box. Let's see what we have. Do I know about Fly Lady, JP? Yes, I do know about Fly Lady. So it's hard to know what to say. Fly Lady has many really good suggestions. My experience, though, is you're quite a ways down the recovery stage by the time you can use them, okay, that they're of actual help to you. And I differ with Fly Lady in that, she has certain cues that you keep your sink empty. You keep your whatever in a certain way. I strongly suggest that when you're on that incline to just being more organized, which I think she's very, very well suited to, I don't think some of her suggestions are as user-friendly or practical or realistic for anybody who's not sort of at, how do I get myself organized? Because that is the stage you will get to, and she's got good advice. I strongly suggest, for instance, that you use a drop zone, a confined, limited space in every room when you're getting there, when you're still on that incline of getting there, but it has to be confined. If it's a chair, then it's not drooping down onto the floor. All right. You can put things there in that drop zone until the chair is full. And when the chair is full, there's no more drop. And I strongly suggest that you use it as a temporary drop zone, better use of it. And then if you can, if it's not the worst day of your life, see if you can handle what's on that chair at the end of every day or the beginning of the next, so that you're handling today's problems today, and you're not promising away tomorrow, because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. All right. The other thing I strongly suggest is you sit down and make a plan in your mind's eye. Where is this thing's permanent place? And its permanent place should be probably the first place you think it belongs, because that's always where you're going to look for it first. But B, if you can manage it and do your level best, because it's well worth its weight in gold, if you put it no further than, say, 4-5 steps from where you actually use it, now you have just, I can't tell you how much, exponentially increased the likelihood you'll actually put it away when you've used it. All right. The other thing I strongly suggest in kitchens, particularly in high use activity of daily living areas, kitchens are part of that. I strongly suggest that you stack things in the sink. All right. Do not add hot water and soap and pretend they're soaking. All right. That is equivalent to the checks in the mail. All right. Yeah, we're misleading ourselves. That's so tempting, but it's not true. And then you're never going to want to put your hand in the scummy cold water, right? So don't do that. But stack things in the sink, and then when that sink is full, you have a due date, or you keep up with what's in the sink in smaller batches. So maybe you take things that are stacked in the sink and you put them by the side. You wash all the glasses. You wash all the teacups. You wash all the whatever. And put those away in small chunks. Okay? Okay. Is it typical to have tremendous bursts of focus and energy that result in high levels of productivity? Yes, absolutely. To be followed by the inability to get back? Yes, absolutely. That's the high and off syndrome. All right. And you want to watch high and off. All right. Because the thing about that tremendous focus and productivity, I mean, you've got to respect your own cadence, your own rhythm, right? Everybody lives at their own rhythm. However, if you have a habit of high productivity and then nothing, it lacks two things. The first thing it lacks is you don't know what tomorrow's coming. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. All right. And so truly the little bit you do every day, and staying ahead of it requires the development of a lot of the tools and information that I'm giving you. A pretty sound, not perfect, but pretty sound ability to self-regulate. That when you don't want to do something, you have a drop zone, but you limit that length of time, that permission you give yourself, that hall pass, all right, that I don't have to do it right now. You limit that. And you start to strengthen your ability to say what I say to myself 20 times a day: Elaine, just do it now. Just do it now. It never gets easier. Okay. If you sit down, take the darn thing and put it in recycling. Take the darn thing, rinse it in the sink. You're right there now, and put it in the garbage or put it in recycling. But here's the thing. Don't have the recycling bin quarter of a mile away outside your house in the garage. All right. Like, how's that going to work? No. What we did, look around you. Is there a cupboard that you can stick it in? It's not going to smell if you rinse the thing out. Like, yes, you're spending hot water, but guess what? You're avoiding hoarding. And enjoy the high productivity, but don't use all your energy. Always, always, always leave yourself some steam in the tank. All right? And fill that up too. Fill up the steam in the tank. How? Joy, fun, and play. Joy, fun, and play. Chantal and I drove 5 hours yesterday. Well, actually, Chantal drove. I sat and watched Chantal drive 5 hours yesterday back from Mississauga from clients. And my joy for the day was to get out and unload the 4 perennials that I bought in Mississauga, and to plan exactly where they were going to go. They're not there yet, but they're going to be there by the end of the week. Okay, a little bit of joy. Woo, woo. Moving forward. Okay. Where are we here now? All right. Let me see what we have. Jimmy says, happy Webcast Wednesday, everyone. You folks really have developed into a community. This is great. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about what is the difference between hoarding and clutter, hoarding and collecting. All right, so 3 criteria for something to be a hoarding situation. There must be what most people would describe as an excessive accumulation and a failure to resolve proportionately. Some or all of the living spaces can't be used for their intended purpose. You're still living in the environment, but you're making adaptations that are not wise, maybe not safe, and that are unusual, all right? And the third is either somebody is actively distressed about the hoard, about piles, about the accumulation, Or even if they're not actively distressed, if they knew the true condition of the property, they would have a legitimate cause to be concerned. Now, that's a pretty scary list, all right? It involves not just family and friends and neighbors. It involves your landlord, your fire insurance company, mortgage if you have one, bylaw, property standards, animal control, Humane Society in the case of animal safety, children's services if there are children who are living there, or if you're babysitting, or you're babysitting grandchildren, having sleepovers and that kind of thing. All right. And also services for the elderly, because I have known of situations where elderly people pay a huge price that can't even get around the place on their walker, confined to a very small space, can't toilet, can't protect their personal hygiene, because they don't want to live in assisted living, and the person who harbors them and offers their home is not staying ahead of the buildup. Okay, so don't be that person. Don't be that person who either pays the consequence yourself by falling downstairs, which is what happened to someone recently, injury, or you need emergency assistance and they can't get to you. And it does not have to be like it is on television for that to be true. A gurney and two people are going to take a good 40 inches. Two firefighters in full regalia trying to get to your electrical panels to limit the damage and to give you time to get out. All right, good 40 inches. And watch what you stick above as well, because you can get, and they can get, emergency assistance can get tied up on those kinds of things. And God forbid that the emergency that happens involves water. All right, and you have a lot of absorbable materials, because that stuff wet weighs a whole lot more than it ever did dry. And it's not drama and it's not exaggeration. The structural integrity of a building that you're in. Look at what's just happened in Florida, okay? There's no guarantee that the structural integrity of the building can sustain that weight. It's tons heavier when it's wet. I'm actually working with someone where the back of their house collapsed under the weight of newspapers that got wet. Okay, small problem in the roof. Didn't even know it was there until the back of the house collapsed. Just a few shingles that got blown off, right? Okay, this is not safe stuff. All right, so those are the three criteria for hoarding. Each of those, even to a minimal degree, must be present for something to qualify as hoarding. But you can have pre-hoarding. Remember, every single person that I have worked with over the last, and August will be 20 years. All right, it's hard to believe, it's gone by in a flash. Every single person told me they started out with clutter. Not every person. That's why it's so important if you can just manage your energy. Don't promise away tomorrow. Do those little pick-me-ups. You can't believe how much you'll stay ahead. And you're developing self-regulation while you do it. The ability to say, no, we're not taking the easy way, unless there is profuse bleeding or projectile vomiting. Those are the two criteria for we take a hall pass today. 15 minutes a day, folks, will keep you where you want to be, and little by little get you to where you want to be. I promise you that. Do it. It's worth it. So what's clutter? Clutter generally is not the same volume or the same long-term residency. All right. And so it can get ahead of you. Clutter is more about some level of disorganization, all right, where things get put down rather than you take a few seconds and say, where would I look for you if I was looking for you? And even if you can't get to that spot and put it away right now, if you're not creating a safety hazard or a health hazard, put it as close as you can get to where it actually goes, where you will look for it. And when you get to that area, you can resolve it then. And chances are when you get there, you can have undone other clutter that will make whatever is in that spot right now either be easier to decide to let go or to house. Now, I have questions in both print copy of the book. I'm not pitching the book, and also in the audio book. All right. But if you can't afford the book, or you've got more than enough books right now and you don't know where you'd put it and be able to find it, and that's okay too, then email me, please. And Chantal and I will email you the questions. All right. You can print them off, or you can create a bookmark on your smartphone or a tablet or whatever, and go to help prime the decisions you need to make. Okay, so that's hoarding and clutter. Everybody wants to be a collector. I'm not a hoarder, I'm a collector. Well, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, or maybe you started out to be a collector. But the bad news is, it isn't a collection anymore. It's actually beyond a buildup. It's actually now more of a hoard. And how do we know that? We know that because if you aren't laying those things out, if you aren't maintaining those things, dusting them, oiling them, shining them up, insuring them, whatever, depending on what the collection is, all right? Started out to be. Whatever that is, if you're not maintaining those things, and when people come in your home regularly, regular visitors, okay, you're saying, oh, and look, and I've made a new addition to my, or they're saying, what a lovely collection of X, Y, and Z. Then, folks, it's not a collection. Somehow it has either started to get out of hand. Just see it for what it is before it's a headache. All right? Just see it for what it is and start to do what you know you need to do. Every single thing we have in our environment, if it remains in our environment, it's because we have a relationship with it. Is it a best friend? Is it a bestie? Okay. Or is it a hanger-on? You know, those people who don't know when to leave at the end of a party? All right. Yeah. Those are those the hangers-on? Don't call them a bestie. All right. What are the criteria for something to be so important? And I have some things that probably wouldn't be worth a dime. All right. That would be one of the, after the people and the animals got out in case of an emergency, those would be the things I grab. All right. The Belite Virgin that my father's father gave my mother. There's a family story behind that one. I grabbed that because that's a symbol of love and acceptance and an ability to change your mind and embrace the parts of the person you didn't quite understand. All right, that's love, family, acceptance, and the ability to be humble. Important qualities for me. Rare in the Irish. I didn't say that. Braden, delete that. Okay. The other thing would be probably my picture that I'm getting of my sister. She had a fantasy picture done, and oh my goodness, it is the funniest thing. When I have it, I'm going to show it to you. It's hysterical. It makes me laugh every time I see it, and believe me, that's a familiar, loving feeling I had with my sister. She was a character, okay, and it just pushes away the sadness. And the other thing I would grab is I probably would grab the vest that my mother knit for my father with his name printed in her handwriting in the top, and my mother's purse, her glasses, and her wedgies, because my heavens, while she was not well and dying for 2 years, she asked me that a million times, and they're just part of a memory of my devotion to her. All right, so are they worth anything? Your collections don't have to be worth anything. Just know that have two things occupy the same space. And if you can't find the thing you want to call a collection and important, if you can't find it, then you probably don't have a collection. Okay? You probably don't have a collection. Just face the truth. Deal with it a little bit at a time. Bring your questions, bring your problems to the podcast. We'll help you with it. We'll all help you with it. Okay. Remember last week I asked you to think of things that fit into the 3 criteria. They are the closest things to your heart. You can't imagine life without it. Did you sort out any of the 4, 5, 6s? The 4, 5, 6s being the 4s probably are those things that are so close to the 1, 2, 3s, not quite, but so close that if you reclaimed enough space, you'd want to keep most of those, and you probably will be able to. The 6s, a little further down the line, they're probably closer to the 7, 8, 9, 10s. What's that silly thing still doing here? Or you're saying to yourself something like, if something's got to go, it's going to be you, because it sure isn't going to be you. All right, the 1, 2, 3s. So those 6s, can we put those sort of with the 7, 8, 9, 10s, and now we just have the 5s. All right. Now, I can't promise you this, but in every situation that I have worked with, given enough time and enough work, every one of the 1, 2, 3s, all right, and most, if not all of the 4s fit and made sense, had a home space, they were accessible, they were enjoyable, they were a positive addition to the person's life. Okay? In many, many, many cases, a goodly number of 5s, the person actually decided to let it go because they realized that as important as that 5 was to them right now, it probably wasn't as important as the next 1, 2, 3 that life was going to send them. And they wanted to keep that space clear for, you're do this. If you've got a breath, there at some point in the future, there's going to be another 1, 2, 3, right? Those are the joyful, loving, precious things, right? And what that means, though, is that maybe more and more things slide off to 4, 4.5, 4 3/4, 5, in order for another 1, 2, 3 to come in. You want the 1, 2, 3s. Those are the guy wires. If you were a tent, those would be the guy wires that keep you up, that give you meaning, that remind you who you are, and give you joy and pleasure. And some of those things aren't inanimate things. So now I want you to imagine, if you can, say some of your 5s. Some of your 5s. If 5s are too difficult, imagine a 6. All right? Something that's nice. Oh yeah, great. But just haven't maybe gotten around to making a decision. Now, I want you to, based on the discussion we had at the beginning of the last podcast, go back to your recollection of, so if I have clutter or hoarding, where am I? Where are the problem points on that tube? The acquire, save, resolve. Where were my problem areas? Where were they? Were they massively attracted to a lot of things, and I'm not bankrupting myself. It's not a financial hardship, but they keep coming in. But it's okay because I can let go of them at the other end. I don't have a problem with saving or whatever. All right. But it's the acquiring. If anything happened, that could cause the development of a severe problem. Say you fell, say you had health problems, say you had a setback financially. That incoming can be a problem. Or is it, no, I don't over acquire really, maybe a little more than whatever, a few retail therapy days. But once I get it, I have a really hard time, because if I don't get my money's worth out of it, or if I bought it and I realize I really didn't need that, I have a really hard time admitting to myself that it was a bad purchase, let it go. Because I've got to get my money's worth out of it. And somehow I tell myself that if I just keep it, I haven't wasted the money. Folks, check your bank account, check your credit card. Okay, it's still on your credit card. You're still going to pay for it unless you return it. All right. If you keep it and you paid cash for it and you don't return it, the money's gone. It's not going. It's staying in your environment doesn't put the money back in your account. You're allowed to be imperfect. You're allowed to make choices, hopefully not a whole whacking load of them financially, that you rethink. You're allowed, right? It's no reflection on you. It's not a personal deficit. Just cut yourself a break. If you don't love it, you realize I don't really need it. I don't really like it. I need something like it, but not this one because it doesn't work. Whatever the reason, you're rethinking it. Let that darn thing go. It's occupying space in your environment that you will want and need for the right thing, or more space to spread out the things you do have so that they're accessible. Have fun with it. Give yourself a little bit of permission to be imperfect. Now, resolve. I don't overly acquire. I'm not determined to hold on to everything that I do acquire and save it. I have the darndest time making decisions. All right, people underestimate how much energy it takes to make a decision. It's exhausting. What are those criteria? And they're personal to you. Nobody can tell you that. They're personal. If those reasons are good enough for you, they're good enough. Here's bad news. If you apply them to a whacking load of stuff, everything's got boundaries and limits. Are we getting this? If you apply it to too many things, you have a hoarding problem. It's not working. All right. What are the criteria for something to be, go to the other end of the spectrum now. 4, 5, 6 is a little harder. It's kind of 4, 5, 6 is determined kind of by process of elimination. All right. So go to the 7, 8, 9, 10s. Are there things around that as you look around you, you go, what's that still doing here? What's that silly thing still doing here? All right. Or, I need the space. I'm going to rethink that as well. I need the space. I want it for something else. All right. Now, I want you in your mind's eye to pick the strongest number one, even if you can't put it in your hand, in your mind's eye. What is the most precious thing you have? And not necessarily dollar figure. What is the strongest example of a 7? In an ideal world, I'd just leave it there and I wouldn't worry about it. But it, frankly, doesn't make the really important cut. Okay? Now, let's look at those 5s and 6s. Let's look at those in your mind's eye. Just like a Geiger counter almost. Think of the relationship you have with that number 1 and run it by it in your mind's eye. Maybe you're sitting in front of a pile of things or a gathering of things, and you can just do it kind of virtually. take that 7 in your mind's eye and run it by those things. What are they closer to? Does it go bing, 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 bing? No, you made a mistake. That's not a 7. That's not a 5. That's not a 6. That's actually a 3. It's actually a 4. All right. Is it closer to the 1, 2, 3s? Is it closer to the 7, 8, 9, 10s? And if it's closer to the 7, 8, 9, 10s, call it a 6 and move the 6s over to the 7, 8, 9, 10s. Because you should have the things that mean the most to you and that give you joy and meaning when you look around you. Those are the things you need to give priority to, because they are the things that remind you who you are, what you're worth, who loved you, who you loved. All right? Puppies included. All right? These are not all people. All right? Always start with the criteria for something to be a 1, 2, 3. The criteria in your mind for something to be a 7, 8, 9, 10. So what are the criteria for the 4, 5, 6s? The 6s become the 7, 8, 9, 10s. The 4s, most of them usually become a 1, 2, 3. And now we just have to decide the 5s. Now, picture the 5, a 5. And let's try this. Scaling it from 1 to 10. 1 being, it would kill me to let that go. It would kill me to even make the decision, not necessarily where we're even going to physically take it and put it out, but just the awareness it has to go. All right? 10 being, should have done it already. Where on that continuum with that 5 you're looking at, you're considering, where are you on that continuum of 1 to 10 with the discomfort? All those arguments that are running through your head about why, oh, okay, well, I will, but not right now. I'm too tired. Wasn't there something else I had to do today? Well, yeah, I will. Just not right now. Just not right now. Whatever the delay tactics you give yourself, whatever the distractions you give yourself, whatever the justifications you give yourself. Now, 5s. Question. Scale the discomfort and the angst, the difficulty, letting go of it, if that was the decision you needed to make. So between 1 and 10, 1 being, I can't even imagine it. I think I'm going to choke. I can't get my breath. All right. 10 being, should have done that a while ago. Is that still here? And in the middle, where are you? What number of difficulty? 2 through 9. All right. And then email me what the item is, what number it got as far as difficulty on the scale of 1 to 10 of difficulty to let go of, and what you told yourself that made it qualify for that number. I want to kind of get a sense. Please do it, okay? Because, little guilt trip coming here, because I spend a lot of time pulling material together and researching and giving you the juice that I feel you need, and I need to understand the struggle you're having a little more if I'm going to fine tune that. This podcast is meant to help you in a free format be able to do whatever you need to do to get unstuck, right? No $ attached to it. Take 5 minutes and send me the email so that I can understand what the struggle is for you. All right, then I know the pieces. 20 years, folks. Then I'm going to know the pieces that we need to backfill and for how many people. because chances are you're not thinking of something that is so spectacularly unique. All right, you're probably in really good company, and a lot of other people are struggling with the same thing. All right, and there's no shame involved. This is not a personal deficit, a personal fault or inadequacy. You're stuck. Lots of ways in life to get stuck. This is one of them. Let's get unstuck. Let's get on with life. Okay, because it wasn't supposed to be filled with clutter. That's something that has happened to you for various reasons, all of which are manageable. Not in one gulp. That's why we need to break it down into the pieces that you can carry. So I think that's it. Okay, everybody, you take care. We are at the end of our questions. I will see you next week. Have a great week. Make it a great one. And I want to see all of those messages coming in with what was the item, number 5, what was the number of difficulty in facing letting it go, and the third one is, what were you telling yourself that was the reason for that number being difficult? Take care, everybody. See you next week.